Well, good morning and good afternoon and good evening to all of you wonderful ladies who are in the audience. Welcome to another episode of She Defined Summit. I have a special treat for you today. All the experts have been special treats. This one, Nicole, this is Nicole Roth, everyone, and I will be reading her bio. I just have to say perseverance is the thing, and we aren't alone. We have an amazing God, and there were some things that happened recently in Nicole's life, and it would have been a stopgap, but that wasn't his plan, and it was wonderful that she was open to it as well. So I am so thrilled, and let me introduce you to Nicole Roth, who is a joy coach. She's an author and the founder of Restoring Belovedness. She walks with a cherished carrier who is weary from being the one who holds everything together, helping her finally lay the burden down and receive true rest, safe, secure, and held. Nicole's approach is strong yet tender, clear yet compassionate, offering women a grounded, protected place to land as they heal. From this restored foundation, the women she serves begin to experience relationships marked by connection, courage, and the steady confidence of being deeply cherished. Nicole's passion is to help women live from the belovedness, cultivate resilient joy, and build relationships rooted in grace and truth. Nicole is a cherished wife of 23 years to David and mom to 3 incredible young adult daughters. When she's not coaching or writing, you'll find her in the woods, in her camper, and with families, many furry friends, refueling in nature where she most deeply experiences God's presence and friendship. And oh my gosh, I'm so excited because you can see where her joy, so you can see the joy in her face, ladies. And I'm just welcome Nicole.
Thank
I
you
love
so
it.
much.
I,
I'm so glad to be here. I'm so glad we persevered.
yes, so am I. So am I.
Yes.
So before we get into the questions and other thing that a lot of the questions they're a curiosity. I would you mind sharing what was happening in your life, or what were you thinking about when the your calling, this
hmm
calling that you do, this
hmm
so amazing, your work,
hmm
when that started to percolate and you felt,
hmm
oh, I need to do something. Would you share with us, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah. So it goes back 20 years ago. I was actually in a worship setting. I was just recently recovering from the deep loss of my father. He actually committed suicide in 2005. And so the bottom fell out of my life. I was dealing with deep grief, of course. And then my health, I lost my health. And so it was just a very, very dark and difficult time. I was also newly married. We got pregnant 6 weeks after we got married. So we
Oh,
had a 2 year old, like I'm trying to be a mom, new wife. And then my poor husband's trying to support me through all of this craziness. And so I found a church that really believed in healing because I was like, I don't even know what to do. I'm going to every doctor. Nobody's helping me. I feel really alone, was the bottom line. And so I went to a service and I'll never forget, I was in worship and the Lord said very clearly, you're going to write a book. And I almost laughed out loud and fell off my chair. Like, I was like, what are you talking about? Me? Like, I'm not a writer. I'm not like that's, some little girls like journal and I do have journals, but like, that's like a thing that you just love to write. I'm like, that's not like a thing for me. Okay. And so I said, God, what's the title of this book that you're going to have me write? And he very clearly and immediately said Tree of Life. And I was like, Oh, okay. For a million reasons, that means so much. And that book actually has not been published yet. So I know it's still coming. But anyhow, so I've known all this time, and he told me to start writing your story, and so I did. I started just being obedient and just writing, and I was like, okay, I guess this is it, I'm like, I guess this is the final product. No, there's more lessons, there's more learning, there's more. I was like, okay, we're still learning. 20 years later. But now I have so much more to offer. I'm 51, and I've been around the block a little bit in that wisdom and the struggles and trials of life, and then ultimately overcoming in that way with the Lord has been just so rich. And so I'm so grateful, not for the hard stuff, but for the fruit that has been born out of those struggles. So yeah, so that the Lord he told me I was a joy coach. I'm like, I don't know what that is.
Isn't
But
it funny? It's
okay,
like,
we'll go with it.
I'd say if you were standing in front of me, what are you talking about? But on the other hand, you are the Lord, so it's so funny. I mean,
Yes.
it's actually incredibly encouraging. It really
Yeah,
is.
thank
That's
you.
that's
No.
beautiful. That's beautiful. So, at what point? So that's when you're getting this, having this conversation with the Lord, and
Hmm.
you're newly everything.
Everything, all the things.
And you have raised three daughters.
Hmm.
They are out of the house, and they're having their lives of their own a lot.
They actually all live at home still. They're 17,
Oh, they're
19,
young.
and
Okay,
well,
okay.
young adults, yeah.
Yeah, young
17,
adults,
19,
right.
and 22. So
Perfect.
they're
Okay.
still
Well,
still
what
in the
a
nest.
true, and yet it's I can't. I mean, they're enmeshed in so much wonder and joy, and
Hmm.
watching their
Hmm.
mom evolve, and what a
Yes.
great example that is.
That has been such a blessing. I mean, truly, and actually, just most recently, the recent program that I launched is called Cherished, and this has been something. We've had a good marriage. There's nothing horrible, nothing terrible, but not amazing. Like I just really felt like, if I was really honest, I didn't feel like I was cherished, and so that word is really important to me. And so, I'd asked the Lord about that, and He actually gave me a word again it was actually at that conference. It was a follow-up meeting that I had after that conference. And so the Lord did so much there. But the Lord very clearly no, your newfound joy will break through, that He shared my husband's name, his heart. And I was like, oh, well, fantastic. It's today. Like, this is awesome. I'm so glad. Well, that's not really been the way it's happened. And so it's actually now. And so the Lord is doing so much good stuff. And actually, the girls, like, so much so, our marriage is so much better that the girls are whispering behind our back, like, what's going on with our parents? Like, what's going on here? And so I knew I needed to share that with other women, because I know that's such a struggle and a longing that we want to feel cherished and beloved by not only the Lord, but our husbands. And so, anyhow, so that's just an example that my kids actually now, since they are, young adults, they're like, the one that specifically said, Mom, I'm so glad that we get to see this transformation before our eyes, because they're getting ready, for their own potential
Sure.
marriages and that. And they said, I don't think it would have been as powerful if it was, when we were little. So they knew, how it was, which again, fine, nothing, nothing terrible. But now they're like, whoa, like, what's going on with y'all?
Well, and that isn't that the case though with so many of us, is that we think, oh, okay, this is how it is,
Hmm.
and we accept
Yeah.
the status quo, if you will.
Right.
It's better than most, or it's
Hmm.
I'm so
Right.
blessed to have been married this many years,
Hmm.
and the answer to how do you have a good marriage? Oh, yes.
Hmm.
you
Hmm.
know um
Yeah. Yeah.
and yet there is so much more
Right.
that we can have, we deserve, but we don't seek it and we don't ask for it.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm so
because
grateful.
that's awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome.
So
And how
whatever.
many, oh,
Yeah.
how many marriages and
Mm-hmm.
lives have been filled with joy because
Mm-hmm.
of being cherished.
Yeah.
That's
No,
a
it's been,
beautiful word.
yeah. Oh, I
It's
love it.
really, I'm sure
Yeah.
it's landed on many of the audience
Mm-hmm.
as well because
Yeah.
sometimes we just go, well, and do you find that that might come from self-worth that we are like, oh yeah, this is what,
Absolutely. Yeah. So what I'm finding, I've been in this space for about 7 years. Like I said, I've called 20 years ago, but actually, starting whatever it's called, a business street, like whatever this is.
speaking
Seven.
out.
Yeah. About 7 years, specifically. And in that time, I've done a lot of different, I just keep doing what the Lord tells me to do this online thing, do this, just like you, being obedient, stepping out. I have no idea what the fruit is or what the expectation is. But now I'm seeing this marriage piece or this relational thing of feeling disconnected and, kind of alone, is really the pain that brings women into my space. And then once they're there, I can say, hey, actually, let's talk about your identity in Christ. Let's talk about
Mm.
how you see yourself. I just did a talk the other night called the Your View of You, and that we have three different views basically that we can have of ourselves. The first one I called the you view, and that really is, from that, like, we've all got wounds. We've got, my big thing that happened to me was a rejection wound when I was young. And so as I tried to heal from all the stuff and loss of my dad, the Lord started to show me, the lovely onion. If you've been in
Yes.
counseling, it's like
Yes.
there's so many layers of all this stuff. And so he took me back to all these things that I just wanted to shove under the rug and move on and push forward and never talk about again. But no, he's like, no, we're going to go back there. And so I dealt with those wounds of rejection. It was over a rumor that I actually never even said myself, but I lost all my friends. It was,
Oh my
it's
goodness.
expanded to, the classroom, then the bus. And it's like, felt like the whole world was against me. And again, I was like, I didn't do anything wrong. But I didn't defend myself. I didn't say anything specifically. So anyhow, so all of that to say everybody's got something or lots of things like that. Brokenness, that sense of you're alone. You got to figure this thing out and kind of I think about that little orphan Annie from the really
Oh
old,
yes. Oh yes.
older movie from the Annie when she's like, put him up, like
Yeah, yeah.
let's,
Let
just
me
that
just defend
sense of
myself.
like, I've
Yeah.
got to carry this on my own. And the Lord is like, hey, no, I'm here. I want to carry, that for you. So anyhow, out of that place of brokenness, we then go into one of these three buckets, if you will. And we do all of them, of course, but the first one I call the view view. And this is really from that place of rejection or abandonment or, whatever the thing is that you have had endured. Then you go into this, you know what? I don't really need people. That was me. I was like, you know what? I'm doing performance. I'm going this route. I'm going to be the teacher's pet, all straight A's. I'm going to, get the thing in the college and the degree, everything about achievement and performance. And so every day, then as a believer, became a believer in my mid 20s. And so then I transferred that performance and that achievement and all that over to my
Sure.
relationship with the Lord. So it's like, okay, I got to, if I'm going to do this quiet time thing, I'm going to do it right. I'm going to do it, check all the boxes and like, it's like, yeah, it doesn't really work. So
And it doesn't really work in anything. It's the
it
box
doesn't.
checking. It's
It
so interesting.
doesn't. Yeah. So then we've got that, that sense of if I get this right, then I, can receive what I've been longing for is God's love. So what I learned in that is receiving God's love. Really, it's God's love is not a goal to achieve, but a gift to receive. And so that really helped me to start to learn, okay, like I saw he started to show me, like Nicole, this is this striving, this, endless living on a hamster wheel I talk about. He was inviting me into something so much more beautiful, and that was living as a windmill instead of a hamster wheel. So the hamster wheel, it feels like you're being productive, but you're never getting anywhere. It's just busy. It's fruitless. Feels very frustrating. And that's where I lived for decades, really. And then the invitation of grace, the invitation to abide and to receive God's love as his beloved is represented by this windmill. And so it's Holy Spirit powered rather than we are trying to, self-effort our way into his good graces, so to speak, and his love. So that's the first category is the you view, kind of that navel gazing, puffing ourselves up in pride, like I've got to be the thing,
Yeah, yeah.
and it's just it just leads to emptiness. And so the second one I called the skewed view, and that one really is looking more to others for our value or our worth
Okay.
instead of to the Lord. And so that one really, and I did both. Like, you know, dip my toe in both, but
Oh,
that's
sure.
really more the people pleasing and, doing
Oh, yeah.
everything to placate others. Yes, being the yes woman, like, yes, I'll sign up for all the things. I'll do everything. I'll be like the Sherpa, like
Oh,
just to
yeah.
carry like
I
all the
know
weight
that
on
all
my
too well.
shoulder. But I can't let anybody down. I got to, make
Right?
everybody happy. And so that view, that really leads, of course, to emptiness as well. And I really found that people pleasing, it does not produce peace. It only robs you of your purpose. And so that is, again, it just leaves you with emptiness. And so the third one, the where we really need to, to aim toward, I call the true view, and that really is based on God's word. It's based on scripture. It's based on digging into who He says about us and meditating on that, thinking on it. Like I even went so far. This was the wake up call as He started to show me how I had built my life. It was kind of a house of cards. Unfortunately, I
Hmm.
was a believer, but it was based on just the works and the performance and the out, the people and everything else rather than what He said about me. And so I got serious about this and I started to he woke, well, that's a whole other story, but he woke me up one morning and gave me a whole list of identity words. And so I wrote them all down, each on individual note cards. And I said, God, if this is really from you, which I believe it was, I want to see all these characteristics that you showed me, beloved and forgiven and redeemed and set free
Oh,
and,
wow.
chosen. I want to see that in your word. And so I actually got into the bathtub and I get my cards out every day and every evening and I say, God, where do you want me to read? Just wait, where do you want me to read in the Bible? And so I would sometimes get it right and I, find something that's like, oh my gosh, I'm victorious, and I write it down to my card and, add it to my list. And sometimes I would, hear something and it didn't even exist. So I didn't get it right, but I kept persisting. It's like, no, I know that you're going to lead me. I know that I'm your sheep. I'm your
Yeah.
child. I can hear your voice. And I know that you want me to find out these things in your scripture. So I took it a step further and actually recorded that into a recording with my family. And I just still just think back to, playing that and just finally having that head knowledge move from, I know God loves me in my head to actually experience it in my heart. And that's where, that's where everything changes when, things become that taste and see experience versus I heard about it from somebody else. So that's what my heart's cry is for every other woman to experience that for herself. So, yes.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. That was so amazing. And while you were talking, um, I related so well.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah, yeah.
is where does and what are your views and your teachings on how we women seem to
Hmm.
carry everything, and when things
Hmm.
don't go exactly right,
Hmm.
where we base right on is
Hmm.
so such a
Hmm.
combination of stuff.
Right. Yes.
Then there's shame.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I if you would expound on that, please.
Absolutely. Yes, I believe that. Well, I don't know if you've ever heard of the author Leif Hetland. He's one of my favorites, but
No,
he's
I
from
haven't.
Norway. Oh, just look him up. But one of the things that he talks about, his main teaching is about God's love, but about leaving the orphan spirit. That's that little orphan Annie, of like,
Yes,
I've got to protect myself and I've got to do all these things so that you will love me, God. And he talks about his own journey out of that. And I can relate so much now to his story. But he says basically that the church really is still to this day a worldwide orphanage. And like we are dealing with a massive issue of people not even, speaking to women in their 70s, Christians that have been believers for years. And I asked them, tell me about your experience with God's love, or, knowing your sense of belovedness. They're like, no, not at all. They don't know. And it's like, oh no, this is so if we haven't received that ourselves, we can't give it out. We
that's right.
can't overflow to others. He says in his word, we love because God first loved us. And so if we don't get that first part, the in, we can't do the out. So, so yes, that's been so profound. But this piece of this issue of shame is absolutely so massive. And I didn't realize personally how huge it was in my life until I started digging a little deeper. Like I said, I was dealing with the onion, dealing with all these things, going back to my childhood, getting the healing that I needed from the Lord. And that was beautiful and wonderful. So one I remember so specifically is 2013. I was at this church and they had a class coming out because a new book was published by Christine Kane, and she was
Oh,
a
I love
frequent
her.
speaker. Yeah, she's great. She was a frequent speaker at this church that we were part of, and so they had this class, and it was about her book, and it was Unashamed was the book.
Yes,
And I remember that coming out, and I looked at the title, and I looked at this class listing, and I remember thinking, I have a lot of issues, but that's not one of them. And so I thought, no, I don't need to go to that class. And the Lord's like, yeah, so we're gonna need to like take a little visit and look at this. I'm like, okay,
I'll just check
so
in. I don't need it, but I'll check in.
I'll do it for somebody else. So I did. I signed up for the class. I read the book and I was like, "Oh, wow. Like this is the issue of my life. Like this is driving every other thing that I'm struggling with, the rejection, unworthiness, insecurity, blah, blah, blah. Like all of it, lack of confidence, all of it was rooted in shame. And so and that was another thing, if you have ever listened to Brene Brown, she
I
talks a lot about
have.
shame. But one of the things she talks about is that the people that have the most shame are actually the ones that think they don't have any. And that was me. So it's such a sneaky, like,
That's
it's just
very
such a
interesting.
sneaky, slimy thing. So if
It
you're
is.
thinking, yeah, that's not me, I'm like, well, you might maybe possibly consider, perhaps going down that road. And so I'll give you at the end, I'll share a link. I don't know if I can remember it off the top of my head, but I'll make sure that you get it in the
Oh,
show
I'll
notes.
publish it. Yeah, in
But
the
there's
show notes.
another
Yeah.
thing that beyond what I already shared that I was going to give to the audience. I would love to give them an assessment, and it's a shame assessment. If they want to just take dip their toe in, you don't like, I actually made it so the email and everything is at the end. Like if you get to the end and you're like, I don't want to share, like I don't want to put my email in, I don't want to, that's cool. Like there's no, this is for you. It's not whatever. It's really for you. But anyhow, that revelation and that realization that like, whoa, this is really kind of driving my life and I had no idea was so profound. And I see it over and over and over again. And this is a couple different ways that I see this come out. So that's twofold. One is they're both involving striving. So the first one I call striving to shine. So that was me, this first
Sure.
bucket, the you view, basically trying to be the thing, be the leader, be out in front, be the best, kind of puff ourselves up in pride, arrogance, but it's rooted ultimately in insecurity and like not
Absolutely.
feeling that great about ourselves. Because true humility actually is not, like the quote, it's not thinking more of yourself, it's actually thinking of yourself. It's not thinking less of yourself, it's thinking of yourself less.
Yes.
And so anyhow, That's that sense. But yeah, so that one side is striving to shine. So I'm going to be out in the front. I'm going to be the leader. I'm going to be the woman who knows it all, have all the answers. That's one approach. And again, birthed out of shame. The other side is striving to serve. And so I am going to be there at when the doors close, when the doors open, when the doors
Oh
close,
yeah. Oh
I will
yeah.
be at the church. I will
Oh yeah.
do all the things, and serving is great. Of course, we're called to serve. But when it's from this place of I'm trying to feel like I have value and I'm trying to, get something, gain something from this approval of others or, something like that, then again, it's just going to cause us heartache. It's going to cause us more pain. And so the answer that the Lord gives, or the invitation rather, is to abide. Instead of strive on either end of the spectrum, is
Oh yeah.
in the middle is to abide. We get to lay it all down. We may have done that at salvation, understanding I got nothing. Like Lord, my life is yours. I understand now. I am a sinner. I need your grace. I need your salvation. And we kind of understand that piece, but then we step into living the life and it kind of goes out the window. It's like, okay, now get your act together, do your Bible study, do pray enough time, serve for this, whatever. And so, especially women, I call it the good girl syndrome. We were raised likely that culture shifting, but at least in my generation and maybe yours, it was be good, be quiet, smile pretty, be pleasing to
Don't
others. And
embarrass
so
us.
no, it's terrible. I mean, there's goodness in that, but we can the enemy twists that
Oh,
into
totally.
something ugly. And so then we start performing, basically for approval. And so anyhow, yes, there's just a lot of things all tied up in there, but this invitation, if you will, in the middle to abide, that changed everything for me to understand the true depth of the gospel. I mean, I'm never going to understand the depth of the gospel, but really the really, really good news of the gospel beyond salvation. Like I thought, okay, you're saved and now get to work, go do the thing so that God will love you. And it's just such a trap. So we get to receive, rest, and have that posture of just receiving from him, knowing we've got nothing to give. Like I have nothing
Yeah.
to offer you but my heart, my obedience, and that is enough for him. And so coming to that place of true emptiness, again, it's such a gift to get to that place. Is It's just been such a blessing to me to lay that burden down of trying and striving and trying to find my worth outside of who Jesus already says that we are in his word.
Exactly. Exactly. And this is so beautiful because there are those who, even in the Lord, even being believers, I still have to do more. I have to do.
Hmm.
And it's not
Yeah.
about doing, it's about being, because
Hmm.
he already knows us.
Yeah.
He knows each of us.
Hmm.
But we have to walk through these. So if there was
Hmm.
one takeaway that you would love the audience to just ponder on, because you have a couple of amazing things that you're going to
Hmm.
show lead us to, but
Hmm.
what is that one thing, that
Hmm.
one step, simple
Hmm.
encouragement?
I would say the realization that I had in my own life that if you aim for good, you're going to miss grace. So we are
Oh,
again,
wow.
we're taught. I know, isn't that it's just
Wow.
so profound that we try so hard to be good girls. We're trying to be pleasing. We're trying to please our husbands, please the neighbors, please the boss, please whoever, and try to be the leader and do all the things whether professionally or wherever else ministry. And that's what I realized. The Lord actually, I was at another he speaks to me in conferences apparently. I was at a women's event, and just a brief story. I was given a ticket to go to this thing. This lady that I didn't know her. She was the leader of this event. reached out to me and said, "You're supposed to be here and I have a free ticket." And I was like, okay, this is weird. This is you, God. I'm gonna, my antenna are up. So I went and I got in the room, and very, soon into this event, the ladies were starting to share their testimonies, and it was very clear quickly that they were like the bad girls. They did the
Oh,
they did the naughty things. It was like jail and prostitute. I mean, all whatever, abortion, whatever the things were. And I sat there. I was the goody two shoes. I thought of myself as the good girl. And I was so uncomfortable. And I'm like, I'm having this conversation with the Lord. Why am I here? God, this does not make sense. I don't fit here at all. I do not belong. I can't relate to them. They're not going to be able to relate to me. I feel so out of place. I was ready to leave. And he very clearly, Louise, it was like all of heaven opened up and he said, so clearly, your desire to be good in your own strength is just as wicked as these girls going the prodigal route. And I was like, wait, what? Like, come again? And so that
oh
was
my
my
goodness.
first, I know, that was my first exposure and this inkling of like, oh, maybe I don't understand this bit about grace so much. And so that weekend, the Lord did so much. He humbled me so much. And I stayed, took the time and was with these women and got to know them. And it was so amazing. I started to see myself in a new light. I needed just as much grace as anybody on this planet. And just because I was, the good girl that had done the whatever, teacher's pet, and, all those things, it didn't matter. I was still just as needy for his grace, not only for salvation, but for every day after that. So we can easily fall into, there's a book by Larry Osborne, which I highly recommend, called Accidental Pharisee. It's extremely convicting. But if you just want to be flattened, just go and read that one. But especially if you can kind of relate more to like the good girl, the more type A, anyhow, all of that, people pleasing, that kind of thing. We can end up in this place of self-righteousness, unfortunately, as
Yes.
believers. And so that's one of my biggest things. So I'll repeat that is if you aim for good, you'll miss God's grace. Like
It's
it is the
beautiful.
most devastating thing. And so many of us don't know that we're missing the really, really good stuff of what God has to offer.
Sounds like a good book title. Just saying.
I do like that.
So this is amazing. Thank you for telling us that story. And it's
Hmm.
not the beauty of the Lord being in our lives is that it's not a once and done. It's a
Absolutely.
constant. He continues to love us through
Hmm.
everything, and we
Absolutely.
just improve, improve, improve. And it's
Hmm.
and taking the shame. There's no shame in going back and confessing and renewing and
Absolutely.
renewing our
Absolutely.
minds, and it's
Absolutely.
awesome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So
Yeah.
as we come to a close,
Yeah.
you have some things that you want to share with the audience.
Yeah, I do. So in this process myself of walking, and again, there's no graduation. Like I was just sharing on this, we're never going to be, never have arrived, which
Yeah,
again, that
it's
sense
beautiful.
of the accidental Pharisee is like, I've arrived, y'all have not, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
But anyhow, I know for sure I have not arrived. But I created this process with the Lord called Encountering Abba, and it's a structured way of journaling with the Lord. Just spending time. It doesn't have to be written. It can, be just whatever. But it's a journaling type guided process with flexibility. So I don't like I'm a free spirit. I don't like to be bound by things. Like it really bothers me when I do a workbook and it's like fill in the blank of this, da da da. And maybe my answer is like 5 pages for that certain thing, or I don't want to answer something. And so then there's like blank spaces, and I just don't like that. So I created a process that's completely flexible with the person using it. And so it's called Encountering Abba. It's got these little symbols, and you just,
Beautiful.
you work through it as much as you want. He's like, if you have time for 3 of the steps, cool. If you want to do all of it, It's just totally flexible. But anyhow, I did a workshop explaining the whole process. This is actually something that I only had for my paying clients for all this whole time that I've been in business. But just actually like 2 weeks ago, the Lord said, I want you to publish that as a workbook. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's cool. Like, let's do it. So not only am I publishing it, it's actually becoming a 5-part process. And so I actually, in this video that I want to give to the audience for free, actually walk you through this process. You can do it yourself.
Beautiful. How
Yeah.
fortunate
So
for us.
I know, I'm so excited to give that. So anyhow, so if you want more support, like the workbook's not published yet at this time of this recording, but if you want more, at the end of the video, I'm going to share how you can be a part of something
Oh, good.
that is going to be live, and there'll be more like live support and
Good.
encouragement and coaching and that. But yeah, but if somebody's just like, yep, give me the thing, I just want to learn and go do it yourself, cool, go do it. So,
That's awesome. And what
yeah,
would be the best way to get a hold of you in particular? Well, I'll share that link, and then
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
they will well, they'll send you their email, and then you'll send them the link. Is that how
it's
it's going to
on,
work?
yeah, they'll just sign up on this little form. They put your
Oh,
name and
perfect.
email in, and it immediately, it's all automated. It sends them the
Perfect.
video themselves, to their email box, and they just go along their merry way. So,
That's great. And how can they get a hold of you personally? If I mean,
yeah, yeah,
you have definitely touched and nudged a number of the audience,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
it would be nice to know how can they get a
Yeah,
hold of
for
you.
sure. Well, everywhere on social, I am known by Restoring Belovedness, and then my name, Nicole Roth, Roth. But my YouTube channel, would love to have you come in on my YouTube channel. Actually, going to be doing a free 5-day event called Fruitful, and I'm so excited about that. At the end of January, it's going to be on my YouTube channel for free.
Perfect.
So this is all about, living a fruitful, like bearing fruit that lasts, without wearing ourselves out. So that's a lot of the things
Oh,
that we
we
talked
all
about
need
on
to
this
learn that.
talk. We're going to go deeper in those things over 5 days. So I'm very excited
Oh
about that.
man, this has just been spectacular. I just I just feel the hand of the Lord all over it because it's
Wow.
happening.
Yes,
and
yes.
so many people will be touched. I am just so grateful. Thank you so
Hmm.
much for
Absolutely.
being available.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm
You
like so
take care, and
excited.
I know that we will be talking soon.
Yes, 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 definitely.
Now,
Love it.
ladies, if you want any of that, you're going to have to click the buttons that are available with this recording, but I would highly recommend that you do because all knowledge, this is wonderful. This was a gift. The whole thing was a gift. It will be great. Thank you so much. God bless you.